Welcome to the All You Can podcast, the podcast that provides a platform for those doing all they can in today's world. And today, another great, special, and just amazing guest, from author to mom to community advocate, amongst many other things. Without further ado, Miss Julia Mallory. How you doing, Queen?
I'm awesome, Ralph. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on. And we had a little bit of technical difficulties behind the scenes, but you know how technology is, and the Pro Tools and the whole world. So thank you for joining us, and welcome. Where do we start? Oh, I got an icebreaker for you.
Okay.
So, icebreaker, we are doing the Let's Get Deep icebreaker, which is the new segment. So here it is. What is the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Wow, I'm very picky, so
What's the
I don't
strangest
even...
thing? That's a good question. I don't even know what the strangest thing is I've eaten. I've eaten gator, but I like gator.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's not even like that strange.
Yeah.
Even though I'm...
To a city boy, and the gator.
I haven't had a gator bite before.
It's actually banging. Strangest thing. It could be culturally or something where you traveled.
I don't have anything. The only thing I could think about is being little and chewing on those caps from the little Kool-Aid thing.
Oh, the turn.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm a real picky eater.
So
I'm not trying a whole lot of different things.
Tell us, how did you get your beginning? Because you're an author as well as many other wonderful things. But how did you get your beginning in writing? Like, where did you get that passion to, either hit the ink to the paper or the pencil to the pad, or where did you pick that up from?
I feel like most writers always say, I've been writing since I was a kid. So, I'm following in their footsteps. I always was a child that liked to write. And then I found a love of poetry when I was little, and then started taking poetry serious, like around the age of 17.
Okay.
I won a poetry contest, but
Really?
I've been writing for a really long time. So, yeah.
Tell me about this poetry contest. Where did you win that?
So the poetry contest was sponsored by, it was called the African American Museum, and it was based here in Harrisburg, but they didn't actually have like a physical building. They were trying to acquire a space, and so they had different, I guess, artifacts or things like that they would try to be mobile with. And so they sponsored a poetry contest, and I was at the High, John Harris. At the time, I entered the contest, and I think the prize was like $150 or $200 back then. Which
for a student?
Yeah, like that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
What you do with the winnings?
What did I do with the winnings?
Get an outfit, put it up?
No, I had a baby on the way, so.
Oh.
What did I do with the winnings? I bought Pampers.
Because me, I would have been like, I'm going to get some sneakers. I got to show up at lunchtime, eat my chicken fingers.
I ended up having to buy Pampers or something like that.
How old were you when you were pregnant?
So 16.
Okay.
Yeah, twice teenage parent.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I wish I had that $150 in high school, man. I want that. Did you have any high school like jobs while you were in school still?
Oh yeah, for sure. I well, even in high school. So in my senior year, so this is like not job, like it's not a paying job initially, but some valuable experience that I got while I was in school was. Through our journalism class, I was on the school newspaper, and then I became the executive editor of our newspaper. So that was hella cool,
For the Cougar paper?
Of the Cougar Prince.
Oh,
Cougar Prince.
Talking to.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
That's really dope. Being able to assign stories to reporters, classmates. Out getting the scoop, then put it all together. Nancy Ferris was the journalism teacher at the time. So
what year was this?
That's like 2000. I came out in 01.
I graduated in 03. In 03. And I vaguely remember them handing out like the Harrisburg.
Yeah, we were serious. Like we were a serious little outfit. Like the student journalists, like they took their job very, very serious.
What's one of the more intriguing stories you had to send somebody out on?
Oh gosh, my memory's not that great, so I can't remember like the specificity. And I was just thinking, I'm sure I had a couple old copies in the basement, so I was thinking of going to grab some of those so that I can like try to remember some of the stories that we covered.
So you went in what, like 90?
98.
98?
Mm-hmm.
So you were there when Mr. Gokay was there?
Well, Mr. Who?
Gokay, he was the principal.
It's like,
who was the principal at that time?
That's kind of a blur.
Because I know Miss Kimber came like 04, 03, something.
No, Miss Kimber was there when I was there.
Yeah, she was there in 03. So, she was there earlier?
She was there when I was there.
Okay.
For sure.
When I graduated, she still was the principal, so I don't know. I remember Gokay. I was just telling Dom this. Coach Dom was here, and Gokay, he was just a principal. Nobody took like serious. Like he'd try to get assemblies going, and it just. I remember because some of my folks would like go up to the front of the auditorium and like pull his pocket and like take stuff out. I'm like, bro,
just wow. I mean, when I was in school, I mean, it's still, school could be wild.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So Black Mermaids.
Mm-hmm.
Can you dive into a little bit about what that is, how you started it, and are you still currently working at it? Or I know you have other ventures. We're going to talk about that here in a second.
Yeah, for sure. So Black Mermaids, I've been calling it my creative container. It started with me publishing a collection of poetry by that same title, November 2016. And the title poem is a retelling of the mythology surrounding mermaids. Like, what if enslaved Africans, the ones that jumped overboard or were thrown overboard during the transatlantic slave trade, what if when they hit the water, they became mermaids? Right.
That gives me like Oceans from Frank Ocean and Jay-Z, when they was talking about the slave waters that they travel in. That's deep. That's deep. Do you know it by heart?
Do I know the poem? Piece? Absolutely not.
I should have been more prepared.
I've never been good at memorizing. Like, it's just never been my strong suit. And then lately, I say with my little trauma brain, like, forget about it. Like, I've never been good at that.
Speaking of trauma, what's your go-to when you're dealing with like things that occur or come up in life that you just need a moment, that take a breath moment? What's your like go-to thing?
It just really depends, like, how I'm feeling, because there'd be a range of emotions. So sometimes for me, sometimes I just need to give my brain a rest. So I like to watch my comfort shows. Just kind of chill out.
What's some of those? Don't say Fresh Prince.
No, my main one is Girlfriends.
Girlfriends.
I think my family thinks something wrong with me.
No, that's a good show.
I'm like constantly rewatching.
Charlamagne to tell you, he snaps out over Girlfriends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, Girlfriends is my go-to. But some other things. Taking a walk. Early on in the journey after losing Julian, I was going to therapy, meditation, writing, making art. Those things have been very useful.
Do you find that it helps? Like whenever, let's say, you take the action you feel is needed to relieve some of the stress, do you feel it actually helps? Yeah,
I think it helps. But I think the thing is that some of the things we go through, sometimes there ain't no cure for it.
They're with you forever.
Right? Like some of it's just going to stick with us. And so sometimes we're doing things, we're trying to pick a healthier alternative to completely just suppressing the feeling. Because I think, we lost my dad unexpectedly in 97. Wow. And so at that time, I did not know how to grieve. I did not know how to deal with that loss. And so there was a lot of suppression that I didn't even realize until losing Julian. And it was just like basically I can't take on one more thing without dealing with this. So, but I think unfortunately it's so easy to think that, if we not engaging with it, then it's done with us or it's not going to bother us. But we carrying it with us whether we deal with it or not. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it's coming out in so many different ways. And I've met all different types of people, successful folks, all different types of folks. And even people who have reached really good heights and dimensions, in their respective lanes, that sometimes we get to that place where because we've been suppressing it so long, we hit a wall and we get sat down, you know. And because in this society, it's been my experience and my observation that people rarely are rewarding you for how emotionally healthy you are, right? It's usually the accolades. It's like, oh, I see you got three degrees. I see you got this job. I see you got this car. You know, I see you running an organization. It's like all those type of, you know. So that's what we strive for, right? And plus, nobody really like teaches us when you're young that, you know, you got to have like a certain type of emotional wellness. We're usually just worried about how you gonna get a job, you know, how you gonna keep a job. You got a family, you gonna take care of your family. Like that's usually the lessons that we're learning. So a lot of us just never really observe healthy ways to grieve and process loss, or even, you know, how to overcome all the odds that have been against us, beyond just like the successful accolade. Like, you know, I've had some days where it's like, wow, like I really have been through some things. Like I'm grateful for what I have, but like there's been times like shit's been hard, you know, it's been rough, and then you look back and you're just like, wow.
You said something that was incredible. Like, they will big you up when you get a degree. Even sometimes when some of us come home from jail, right? Like, you know, right? But
I mean, that's a significant accomplishment.
Yeah. But what about those staying sane purposefully? Those finding the way to deal with, whether it is getting therapy or talking to a friend or going for that walk, they're dealing with it and it's working. They're still being a productive member of society. They're still doing fantastic. Why no roses for them, right? Why no celebrations or mental health awards, right? For them, for us, because I hurt, you hurt. I know I'm included in that day after day. A lot of times people just think those have it figured out, but if you talk to any human being, everyone could use a little bit of conversation, or, you know, a little bit of how you doing. But you said something so valuable, because not saying those accomplishments aren't monumental and great, but I think someone that is able to deal with some of the worst and still move on and move forward, I think is fantastic. I was telling Sherrod when he was here, I've seen things in my childhood that most veterans would have to come home from the war and deal with, like clinical like evaluations and years of therapy. I'm just told to go back to school. Oh, you saw your cousin get shot? I'm sorry, bro. You eat today? Go ahead, go to school. Right? And what that does to the human psyche. And it's like, not just once, you get many examples of that, and then you see, you might get shot at. You like, and then it becomes normal, right? We become numb to it. And it's like, oh, I almost got hit today coming home from school. Like, that's not normal, right? It's not. But you hit on something that's so valuable. Why do you feel that is, though?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, you know, a lot of us taking care of our mental health is an inside job, you know. So most of the time, people are just happy
until it spills out.
Well, yeah. So most of the time, people are just like, you supposed to behave a certain kind of way, right, in life. So,
society says.
Right. So most of the time, if you just doing what you're supposed to be doing, people, there's not going to be no exceptional reward for that, because people are like, yes, you're supposed to do these things. Like, you're supposed to follow this path. You're supposed to talk to people a certain kind of way. You're supposed to show up every day. Like, that's just normal for the expectation is. So I think it's easy for us to take a lot of that for granted. But I also am a person that believes a lot of it's also like the rewards and the flowers that we want for it. A lot of times it's also going to be intrinsic. It's going to be an inside job. You know what I mean? You're going to have to give yourself flowers. You're going to have to remember, you know, all the difficult things that you overcome, because one, people dealing with their own, right? You know, people have their own set of trauma and obstacles that they're trying to work through. So sometimes people don't even have the capacity to really acknowledge that. And they also may not know. They may not know the intricacies of everything that you've endured. You know, they do see it on the other side, right? They do see your resilience when you emerge stronger, and supposedly fortified for everything that you've been through. So it seems, to be quite honest, to me it seems reasonable that people don't even know really how to handle, like, what do we say, like what we do, and I think a lot of that is going to be more in our interpersonal relationships, just regular folks who know where you've been, and just, and I think that is something that I think we can stand to do, is model a little bit more, telling folks that we're proud of them, right? You know what I mean? Like, I know you've been through some things, and I know you've been trying. I'm proud of you. Like, I think we need to practice that more with each other.
I've been finding myself
just ordinary, acknowledgement.
To good behavior, whether it's and I think you're right. Like, I've been trying that a lot more with my students, especially the ones I know that are a bit more on the bully side, a bit more on the I notice them now, like, when they usually would say, if you don't get out my, they'd go back to what they're doing. And I'll pull them to the side later on, like, bro, I'm really proud of you. What you talking about, Mr. Ralph? I know you would have jumped on a little bit ago, but I saw you kind of ignore what he was doing, and I'm really proud of that. And give me that look, and I know what that look means. Like, don't worry about it, just keep doing what you're doing. And that leads into another, but then I see them self-correct more because of that. That small appreciation engagement, that small, it's major. I was just talking more from the point of, like, because when something traumatic, like if you lose your child, like if you lose a mom, if you lose a dad, if you get harmed yourself, and this is, let's say, society or your community knows about it, if on the opposite end, if you kind of spazzed out and went out and went off, right, they'd be like, oh, he lost his mom, so it's, but in the reverse, as to your point, like, if you're doing your best, just say, man, my mom wouldn't want me to kind of snap out, I'm doing my best here. I think there should be some type of maybe.
I mean, I think people do. I do think that's.
But it has to happen more from with us than more within.
But I don't know. I do feel like people definitely do, like, say, wow, like, these type of things you overcome, like, other people couldn't do it. Like, I think people do praise each other for being resilient.
Are there, like, besides, like, mental health awareness month and things like that, is there, like, events geared towards that? Like,
that I'm not 100% sure, because I think a lot of that might be infused into other type of celebrations where somebody's getting an award, and part of why people are acknowledging them because they know the odds that they beat. So a lot of times it's not just a straight, like, at least from my understanding, but it's usually always infused into when people have these type of these events, when they're giving people, the trophies or the certificates. A lot of times it is because they're like, oh, we know the struggle, we know where you come from. And so, I mean, I've been to a lot of things like that where people are, acknowledged for the difficulty that they've overcome. Yeah, because this is one of those spaces that anytime a guest comes on, I want them to be free, speak their mind, and just know that I'm a great ear to listen. If nothing else, I will sit here for an hour and just listen, right? Because I know on the harder days, that's what I need. Don't judge me. Don't be judgmental. Let me just get your ear for a minute. I might bite it off, but I'll feel better, and I know you'll, feel accomplished as my friend, my buddy, my girlfriend, whomever, right? But those that scream it out and never get that ear, those are ones I feel bad for, because there are some individuals that give you warnings or like, I'm getting triggered. Can you not do that? Can you please? And when it's not being heard or listened to with effectiveness, that's when it, like, it upsets me, because it happens to me often. And a lot of individuals think, oh, I just got to figure it out, so I don't feel those same feelings. And it's like, wow, like, no, it's the complete opposite. I need you more than ever, right? Like, but that's that just growth. It comes with growth. I know a lot of younger ones that I speak with, they don't even realize mental health is a thing. They just see their brain as a brain. They don't realize the compartments or how really dive of a deep you can take. But the education, I think, will just lead to more and more, development. Oh, for sure. Because I think they've tried to standardize it too, where kids are getting at least some sort of mental health or social emotional learning, learning and intelligence in school. So, I think life has come a lot further in that way, to where we are even, using certain terms and expressions that it wasn't common when I was in school. True. Right? Like, there was no big, like, mental health awareness month or day or week. So I think we are getting a little bit better at having those conversations. But, the reality is, like, a lot of our communities and organizations are still under resourced
Right.
to be able to actually carry out this work.
Right. Well, I wonder if there's something on the CMU as a board member that we could do to assist, have the community more aware, more open to what's going on. Because there's so much more I know the larger entities can do, but I think there's a disconnect on that level. But then
For
also
sure.
on the grassroots level, trying to get up to those resources.
Yeah, it's
Some type of-
definitely, I feel like, and to me, Harrisburg is a place of extremes.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like there's like all this institutional power, and then I feel like, there are very grassroots
Yeah.
organizations that are really doing their best to hold down the community. And I feel like there's not enough of a bridge in the middle.
That's interesting.
That's just been my observation. And I think also like mental health still remains a very highly stigmatized subject, because people usually, it's a lot easier for them to praise you when they think you figured it out, when they think you've emerged from the struggle. But when people say, oh, I'm chronically mentally unwell, like people don't know how to handle that, right? If someone's dealing with chronic depression, like people don't always know how to handle that.
Absolutely.
Because they think that it's like, oh, you know. So I think that's another thing that's really challenging, is that when folks are doing really well, we can throw the energy behind that, we can celebrate them. But when people might have a lifelong, struggle of figuring it out, I think that's a little bit harder for people to really understand. That there is like no quick, easy, oh, you overcame. It's something that people might be overcoming for years.
And it gets challenging not only when you struggle with a lot of conditions. When you're children, you start seeing things develop in them, and they start needing assistance or going through different things, and you walk them through it. Everything is different when it comes to the ones you've created. You look at it different. You talk about them different. There's a sense of pride there that's just you can't replace, and it's just watching my daughter go through a lot in her junior year. Thank God she graduated with honors. But a lot of people that were there for us, I really appreciate them, because it was a time where I thought, no, not my kids, right? Like. Not mine.
Yeah, no, it's so easy to, and I think that's what happens a lot of times. Philosophically, everybody's like, it's okay to not be okay, right? Mental health matters, right? And then when it's like the thing that you're struggling with, or people close to you are struggling with, it's like, can we still honor that same thing? Because I used to be the executive director of a mental health organization, and every time I would tell somebody my job, it would always be like, yeah, because people don't want to talk about mental health, and then it would, and then like they would bring race into it. It's like, because Black folk, they don't believe in, mental health. They don't believe in counseling or therapy or whatever. And I'm like, okay. But then what as I would come to eventually talk to them, is like, well, one, some communities, mental health is further stigmatized for us. Sometimes it can feel like a personal failing, especially when you go to certain systems that are not really designed to acknowledge the full person. So there's further stigma associated with that. You may not also get the same level of help that somebody else might get. And so, of course, people don't want to put themselves in what they believe to be further harm's way. And mental health is challenging for most people to talk about. So that's the thing I was also trying to impart on folks. Like, y'all, we don't have to further pathologize us. We can, trust me, people are having a difficult time talking about their mental health concerns, especially when it's not something that is a quick fix that, oh, you can just go to therapy 3 days and then they're cured. So I think obviously the more that we talk about it, hopefully, we're starting to further eliminate some of the stigma. I think that's so conversations like this, I think they can be helpful for that.
Plus being denied access just to the healing, right? That's a huge part of it. And I know we've been denied the proper access forever.
Right. And so even, again, there's a whole history around, I mean, hell, at one point when enslaved Black folks wanted to run away, they literally called that a mental illness. right? So
like, how dare them not want all this greatness? Like,
right.
wow.
Like, how dare you went off this plantation?
It's like DeSantis talking about, no, that don't count for black people because they learned something during slavery. Like, what?
Right. So we're still dealing with, I think, even trying to look like normal in the face of adversity, right? We're still dealing with chronic stress and chronic trauma, right? So when we talk about PTSD, right, post-traumatic stress disorder, well, there has to be like a post. It means it has to be something that passed, right? So people used to say like, okay, it's something that was studied in veterans early on, right? So this idea somebody's in war, they're in combat, they come home, or they got PTSD because the war is post. It's over there, right? It's not outside their door. But for a lot of us, it's outside our door
every day
still. So what's the post in that? It's more perpetual. It's like perpetual traumatic stress disorder,
And that's why our poets take us to another level, such as you, such as Mobb Deep. There's a war going on outside, no man is safe from.
Right.
You could run, but you can't hide forever from
Right.
these. Like that's why music, it always, like, it put me there, especially when I was younger. Like, why don't nobody want me? Why, I'd put on Mike, I'd put on the Locks, and it just take me there. And to be able to manifest one day meeting them and touring with them, it's like, I don't know how that works, but we did it, right? We believed in it, but it did it for me. Music has always had that place where no matter what I was feeling, no matter how many times I was left, it got me there. Wow, man. You had mentioned Juju briefly. Is there something you wanted to bring up or speak about?
Well, I think part of my work, as far as mental health is concerned, is really doing community grief work. Really having this really clear conversation around grief.
Yes.
And I always like to say, grief is not always death-related loss, but within our communities, I mean, we can talk about that a lot. Right, we could talk about that a lot, and loss, right? Loss can run the gamut, and also in our communities, we are also dealing with a lot of mass incarceration. So we're dealing with, families, children being separated from their parents, right?
By design.
Well, right. So without even touching on that piece of it, right? So we're dealing with the separation of children from their parents, and then we have parents such as myself who are losing children way too young, and so our communities, right, like our communities are dealing with this, but the problem, one, back to the perpetual trauma, right? There's like not this like quick easy fix for it. So even in trying to talk to folks about grief, it's like, how can we acknowledge it? But it's challenging, right? Because like grief, it's with you for forever. It's a lifetime of it. But I think a start is obviously us acknowledging it, because sometimes, how life is, it's a little peculiar, We're burying our kids and then everybody just go back to school tomorrow. Like, everybody just get back on the bus, we just go to work.
That part right there.
And so, there ain't no real space for us to really tend to our wounds. And then the wounds are just constantly being like, they don't even get to form scar tissue before they open back up.
Yep.
So, but I think because, and grief does a lot of things to you, right? Like, that stress, like, it wears on your nerves. It messes with your sleep, right? It can make you anxious, So you also dealing with these, it can cause chronic pain in your body, inflammation, all that stress. Like, I mean, when I tell people sometimes I'm grateful, like, just to be alive, like, that's not hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating, because there are people who have lost their children who have died of broken heart syndrome, right? Like, people's parents' hearts just seizing up on them because they can't take the emotional pain of losing a child. So when I say that, I'm not trying to sound like a poet or somebody that's trying to seem exceptional. I'm saying literally, there are parents out here, right? Or people who have lost loved ones whose body cannot handle the stress, who cannot endure. And there's nothing wrong with them from not being able to endure. Like it's abnormal. It's not natural for you to, bury a child. Like it's just not. So with that being said, trying to provide ways and spaces for us to talk about grief, for us to acknowledge it, its presence in our life, to even just folks to just, because, we have the funeral, folk check on you for a little bit, and we get it. Everybody's in our community too, right? It's like, well, who's supposed to be the one that can hold it all that ain't already holding it? You know what I mean? Like folks are already holding a lot. So what can that work look like that allows us to maybe each hold a little bit of it together, because there's so much. And I mean, there's so much. And I don't know, like lately, and I think us being connected via social media too, we see so much of it. It's like, I'm like, damn, like this last month, I had somebody reach out to me. They were, they're studying for their master's in social work, and they asked me if I would maybe connect them with like another child loss survivor or something. And I just was like, let me think about it. And then I had to tell them, I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that. Like, my community just lost all these kids in a week. I can't ask nobody that right now. You know what I mean? I can't do that.
Well, I know, just from me, I appreciate you just being able to touch on it, because I know it's never an easy thing to talk about or discuss, but your work is so important. And I know anytime I've called upon you, you've been there, chest out, ready to go. So, and it's so impactful what you do. It's so impactful, Queen. So I love you and thank you for that. I really appreciate it. All right, let's lighten it up a bit, even though it's called Let's Get Deep. Lighten it up a bit. So, is it harder to break up with someone or be broken up with?
I feel like it's harder to break up with someone.
Why you say that?
Because I think when you're breaking up with someone,
you gotta plan and prep it.
Right, and I'm thinking about...
You be in the mirror practicing, and I'm done with everything.
Well, and that's what... So I'm thinking... But think about people that break up where it's not like anything sinister that happened. Right.
It's not you, it's me. It's just I'm not.
But like genuinely meaning that. Like I imagine like that could be very, very difficult. Like,
is it really genuine, Ju? You gotta tell me. Is it really genuine? Or they found someone else, they just capped?
Well, I think there's 1,000 different things that could be true. Like I think there's 1,000 different things.
For millions of relationships.
Right, because when people say, I mean, sometimes we also just have to accept that whatever the reason is, it ain't gonna be us.
Right.
Like I think no matter what that person is saying, at the end of the day, it's not working out for them. And so do you really want to belabor the situation when the person is like, oh, they're not choosing you anymore for whatever reason? You know what I mean? I know it's stressful probably in the moment, but, that rejection is also protection. Because, like, now you could be blessed and released and go find what's really meant for you.
Yeah. I think I'm scared to, like, I've only been with, like, one woman in the past 20, 30 years. I feel like an old head. Like, I feel like I'm one of the retired people on a swing. Because, like, I'd rather just deal with the BS I know I'm comfortable with, I can handle. Because they got this old village in China where people have all these issues and they go in this temple and they exchange their problems. And people leave out running, heading for the hills. And it's just like one of them things like, you don't have it as bad as you might think you do. There's always someone that might have it a little bit worse or over the top.
But see, that is one of my least favorite things.
Like, what, relationship?
No, not relationships. The idea that, like, my gratitude can only be rooted in the idea that somebody else somewhere got it worse than me.
Oh, man.
Like, I don't know if me having to be a voyeur in someone else's mess needs to matter for me to be satisfied, right? Like, how long does that really soothe your spirit?
The avoider.
Like, I don't really get it. Like, I don't know. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But I think, now I will say in modern relationships, I think part of the struggle, and I'm never like a relationship expert or nothing like that, but I do think part of the struggle is because we are exposed to so many different people. People think they do have like an endless list of options.
Social media does that too.
Oh, for sure. Like, people think they can like build people like widgets, and it's like you're not gonna get, like, people think they can just like, oh, I'm gonna get this, and then I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna get this, and then people are like, oh, I made a list and I prayed about it. Yeah, and maybe God still sent you this other combination, right? Like, maybe
It is
you
true,
got
though.
this other combination. Like, maybe it's still not the widget that you try to build.
TikTok will have you in your bag, like you watching all this stuff.
You know, because a lot of that, a lot of this stuff is literally clickbait. It's literally for engagement.
Yeah.
I just watched a video. A writer that I follow, he posted a video on his stories on Instagram, and it was people that said they had sold tickets to their wedding.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So sometimes on social media too, you don't know what's real and what people did so that they can get 1 million views, so that they can monetize their page, right? So sometimes you don't always know what people like. Are people acting?
How much did they charge?
I don't know.
I'm interested now. I'm interested.
I don't think they mentioned that part, but it was wild because it was like, oh, how could we choose between? Of course, we couldn't choose between Nana and TT, so we sold tickets to our wedding, and I was thinking, so Nana had to buy a ticket.
Yeah, Nana got to buy a ticket.
Right. So this is a lot of this stuff is just not real.
Yeah.
I think that was like fake. Like, I don't think it was a real thing. But then again, people do be pushing the envelope now because they have an audience, and us literally sitting here talking about it. So, but I do think social media makes us feel like we got an endless set of options.
I believe in instant karma. Well, in my life, it works that way. And if anytime I ever was mischievous or felt like I did something, I felt it right away, whether the car broke down or the tire popped, I lost my key, or right away, I'm like, God, okay, I got it. I get it.
And he said, I'm not going to let you go too far.
Listen,
with this.
and even
Let's wrap this up.
And even though it might be BS, it's just in my life and my experiences, it works that way. And I'm like, and that's why every day I really try to do all I can. And I'm just selflessly, and we're just doing all we can, like every day. Whether we got the kids delivering food, or we giving after school programming, or we just doing events for the people, that's my happy space. I'm good. I don't need to be a pimp. I don't need to be a G. Because the people from that will tell you that's not cool. We trying to get out of that.
After a while, it all gets old. After a while, it all gets old, for sure.
But I will say, women are the most beautiful thing created on God's green earth. So I can see how men would lose it from time to time.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, folks are unfaithful for a variety of reasons.
Now, I'm proud of you for many different things. But recently, you just had a grand opening.
Yep.
Oh, congratulations, first and foremost.
Thank you.
Would you like to touch on the new endeavor?
Yeah, so the latest thing that I'm involved in is called 1006.
1006.
Right, and it's a multicultural community gathering space.
Dope.
And so I'm trying to bring folks together for collective learning, creativity, just an opportunity to connect with each other.
That's dope.
Yeah.
What's behind the name? What's the
It's
name?
the address.
Oh.
Yeah, 1006 North 3rd. Yeah, that's right. So I love that. Everybody's like, what's the, 1006.
It sounds like there's something with the meaning, like, oh, my child was born in 1006.
No. It's literally the address, 1006.
Wow. He's like, just keep it on there. Just go ahead and keep it on there.
Yeah, because, I've been doing a lot. And so I figured I wanted a name that honored the fact that I'm in a space now.
Yeah.
Right? So, however 1006 continues to evolve, 1006 is like the building.
That's awesome.
Right? And so Black Mermaids is the universal thing. I'm taking that wherever I go, or whatever else is to come. But I wanted to honor the fact that, 1006 is the physical location. Like I've been saying to folks, I move in a lot of different creative lanes, but 1006 is where I'm parking the car. Right? So, yeah.
Now, is that event space as well, or just like meeting of the minds, gathering, education purposes, or will it be multi-purpose, like all over?
It's multi-purpose. Like I'm really, like really everything is under the umbrella of creativity, right? So trying niche events, like different things that folks might have an interest in. So one of the things I've been doing, teaching community spades workshops.
That's awesome.
So that kind of like caught on early. Like folks are like, oh, I want to learn how to play spades. I'm tired of my black card being in question. I'm tired of like being at the cookout and people getting all aggressive with me because I don't know how to play.
That's me. You don't know how to play spades? Get her out of here, bro. That's me. That's me
Okay.
100%.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're one of the people that they've been talking about.
I'm the
because-
intimidator.
Okay.
That comes from placement. Like we learned how to. Once again, God forgive me. We learned how to cheat and everything. Like I got nice with it, but I'm also a very nice spades player. But also we learned because you got nothing to do with play cards, so we learned all the what card was bent. What.
Yeah. So we've been doing something like that.
Hold on. What kind of spades are you teaching though? Is it because there's many different kind of spades now. Like you could play with the deuces. You could play with the two jokers. You could.
You gotta have the jokers. That's
yeah.
what makes it spades. You gotta have the wild card.
Books, but I've also played deuce of diamonds, so joker, deuce of diamonds, deuce of spades.
That's how we play. That's how I teach.
Okay, perfect.
That's
perfect,
how I
perfect,
teach. Now I know there are other ways, and I tell the participants, like you always got to know the house rules.
Okay,
When you sit down and you have a question, just simply ask.
I've gotten a lot of arguments over that.
Yeah. Because it happens if it go too far and then there's an issue, then like that's what you got to know up front. But yeah, no, we play.
Underbidding is huge.
What'd you say?
Underbidding, if you underbid.
Yeah, so we talked about that, sandbags, and
she knows she's talking about y'all.
Yeah, we talked about the purpose of why bidding is important, why sandbags. The whole point is to disincentivize you for playing it safe, right? Because the whole point is go big or go home. We play to win.
Can't go 3 books over.
So we haven't played like that. But actually with sandbags, we don't get too deep in that because not everybody plays that. Okay. Like I've spent years where people didn't really even play sandbags.
Oh, we got deep. Right? We get deep. We get
so then when I would go to like games, I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I know how to play, so it's like it's not a big deal. But initially when I learned how to play spades, like sandbags wasn't that big of a thing.
My thing, I watched the players, especially who we were playing, and of course, you don't want to talk across the table, but you can see their little contacts. You can see their little foot movements.
Oh, of course.
I'm like, oh, bro, there's an ace in the building. Like, they'll get mad. I'll start learning their stuff. But then also the reneges. I'll catch you playing the same card twice. I will catch you.
Yeah, no, we've definitely, so we covered all of that. Like, even, so it was the funniest thing. So one of the players... this is like we open it up, like I'm getting ready to get into the presentation to instruct folks on how to play. So one player, Miss Cheryl, was like, Julia, how come people get so aggressive when they're playing spades, right? So I give her my explanation and everything like that. And then it's so funny because by the time the class was over, because we also, so there's me teaching, I got like a PowerPoint presentation that I use. We go through the little history a little bit, about the origins of spades. So in that way we do it's a cultural connection, right? So we talk about that, how spades, spread throughout the US.
What's their origin? Like how did it?
So from my understanding, and I got this from a site called, what's it called, like thepudding.com. So spades is a combination of two games. Like there's, what is it, bid with.
Okay.
And
those deuces or something.
No. What's the other one? So it's a combination of two games, and the thought is that spades was different because it uses the jokers.
Okay.
It uses the jokers, and so the thought was that it originated in the South, like black folks were, because the other games were more like the intelligentsia. The elite people played those games, and the spades was the black game that enslaved folks and formerly enslaved folks played. And then during the Great Migration, spades went north.
Ah.
Yeah. So then some folks believe that what was it? Like there's two sources, some like that people have credited as like kind of
The OG of it all.
Yeah, like bringing it north. But the thought is that part of also what happened during the Great Migration is the Pullman porters, and so the thought was that when they were going to different cities, they would, they would be at the station, or they would, be wherever they're at, and they're like playing the game. So then that way it's like spreading, throughout, and then veterans in the war also help like spread the game.
Wow, and this wasn't even a planned conversation, but you can't get much more culture than spades, Like,
no, you really can't.
Your uncles is arguing, your aunts are saying, "I'm tired of this." Your pops is probably like flipping out because somebody's cheating.
You see a whole different side of people.
What? Spade? Listen.
Like spades can bring out the worst in people.
So we talking about transparency here. I got in trouble Thanksgiving of 99, 2001, taking them from my little cousin over their spades game with my uncles and them. Yeah, right across the street from Melrose on Berry Hill. Oh man, Vic, if you watching.
Oh my goodness.
But I mean, it gets deep.
It's never wild.
It's never like malicious, right? But spades, you're so passionate about the game.
Yeah.
Because it's like one of them things like, no, we're the dopest team. We're the illest. Like, it's just one of those bravado things. Like, you're proving how good you are at something. But spades is just like a cultural, just a thing, man.
Yeah, and so it definitely can. So people, when I was advertising the classes, people were sending me like these videos because they were like, see, this is why I don't want to play, because it's the ones like people acting really wild. And I'm like, y'all, I'm like, it's rare that you're going to be in a game where people's behavior is not going to match what's acceptable. You know what I mean? Like, typically people are matching energy. You
know what the telltale sign is? When you get somebody playing and they start separating their books like this, and when they lay that card.
But I feel like people typically are doing that in a space where they know that that's okay to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because it's like basketball. You're going to talk trash when you get on that court. Right. That's how I feel in spades. Like,
so that's exactly what I was saying to the one workshop participant, Michelle. I'm like, Michelle, it's just like sports. People going to bring the bravado. Like, what is the game without trash talking?
Where's the Olympics committee? We need spades in the Olympics, y'all.
Listen.
What? Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Go. Oh, see, I think I got a new spades partner.
Yeah, let's do it.
No, but do you guys, besides the education, do you guys host like spades tournaments? Or?
So we haven't done tournaments yet, but people were asking for that.
I'll be down to partner.
People were asking for that. So I am like, oh, maybe we should do that.
I'm saying this here live on the show. All you can is down. Like you.
Yeah, no. I think we definitely gonna do a tournament.
Shirts. And,
I think we're gonna do a tournament.
Fly.
Might not be to the fall. You know what I mean? Because when we gotta raise some more spades players, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We gotta
get some teams going.
Because part of too, what I would like for it to be is not just only like spades OGs, right? Like, I think we would want to have some fresh folks in there. You know what I mean? So when I'm saying fresh, that could be 60-year-old people that just learn how to play,
right,
and that could be 14-year-olds too. You know what I mean? So I think we want to raise a little bit more folks up in the tradition, and then we have more.
Let me ask you this,
folks.
Queen. Do you think spades is to like our culture what like Capicola or Dominoes is to like Latinos or like the Mexicanos, how they LA?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I also got to play dominoes. My dad taught me how to play that, but I just so I also made these custom card decks for the workshops, and then people were interested. So I'm selling these like card decks now for 1006. But there was a guy, we were vending at Arts Fest, and there was a guy who stopped by the table. He ended up getting he bought a card deck, but he don't really play spades. He's like, I'm Caribbean. It's like dominoes is our thing. Right. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I was like, maybe we'll also get some dominoes games going too, because people also don't know how to play dominoes. Yeah. So I don't know. My dad and my dad's mom, they taught me a lot of those games.
Just as passionate.
Right. So my dad also, like, I played backgammon, all that.
That's amazing, man. Then to show the young ones or the people who never even played it that there is another game out here, an alternative to whatever else is going on. And, because I love it when we're at the after school program and the PS5's hooked up where you could do art and like, oh, it's free time, do what you want. And they pull out a deck of cards.
Okay.
Oh, I love it. I love
what
it.
What they be playing?
They play spades, they play rummy, they play tonk.
They play deuces?
I haven't heard them playing deuces, but definitely I Declare War.
Okay.
But I mean, they pull out the cards.
Not them having a whole card deck.
No,
okay. That's
actually, one of our peer mentors, Lanique, he's going to trip when he sees this. He walks around with some, I think they're Black Panther cards. He always keeps them with him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because in my custom card deck, so the Jack is Samuel Jackson.
Yeah,
the Queen is Queen Latifah.
Dope.
And the King is MLK.
Really?
Yeah.
And you made
I made them. Yeah.
How much is it? Well,
the decks are $13.
How can, if people wanted to order them, how could they get in contact with
you? I haven't even added them to the website, but they'll be on blackmermaids.com.
Could you do custom to different people's organizations and things like that?
I could. I probably could.
I'm gonna be getting with you on that.
Yeah. We could do that.
We need a couple
sure.
decks. Well, what's coming up for you and the team, or any special events? You know, you're attached to the Juneteenth event.
Well, I have my own that I'm doing.
Okay.
So I don't know when folks this is gonna air, but so this by the time this probably airs, we will have already had our movie night on June 11th. But on the 18th, we're doing an art making.
Oh, like what? Tomorrow, June 11th, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tomorrow's movie night. Breaking out the popcorn machine for that.
Super dope.
What
y'all watching?
Miss Juneteenth. Watching Miss Juneteenth. And so, but on the 18th, though, folks are definitely welcome to come out. It's called Ancestors in the Archives. And the whole point is to make art that honors our ancestors. And so we'll have materials and supplies and things like that. And depending on what people make, if they want to have it on display at 10:06, they could do that for a window of time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. If anyone wanted to get in contact with you about space or events that you're having at 10:06, how could they get a hold of you?
I think the best thing is to follow me on social media. The best thing is to follow me on social media. So Facebook, 10:06 has a page. On Instagram, we're 10:06, and it's spelled out TENOHSIX. Studio is our Instagram.
Okay.
So 10:06 Studio. And folks could also follow my page, the Julia Mallory, on Instagram. That's where I'm constantly, posting the updates, and there'll be links to everything if folks follow me on social media.
Awesome. And then as far as our Let's Get Deep, here is our final, The Deeper. What has been the most magical moment of your life so far? If you could sum it up. I'm pretty sure there's millions of them. But if you had to sum it up to one, what has been the most magical moment of your life so far?
Oh, that's such a hard question. So maybe not the most magical, but something that felt like an incredible milestone. So creatively, I'm also like an emerging filmmaker, but I like to make these like short experimental films. That's my thing. And last year, like my film screened at 3 different festivals the week of my birthday.
Wow.
So like that Friday, I was like the Friday before my birthday, I was in Toronto, like screening my film at a film festival, and then
that's dope.
Yeah, no, and then like the day before my birthday, we were in New York at the Lincoln Center where my film was showing, and then the day after my birthday, it screened at the Midtown Cinema for the Mauvier Underground Film Festival. So I was like, I went from being international to being in New York City, right? Like, so international, national, and then at the home team. So that felt like an incredible milestone.
What was the name of the film?
It's called Grief is the Glitch.
Short or?
It's very short.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Short experimental film.
How long would you say?
It's like 4 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So that's like, doing this type of work, I'm also trying to tell folks, it's like, folks don't always have to understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? They may not even, like, know the why, but long as you do.
Long as just pleasing
I still was at the Lincoln Center with my 4-minute film, doing an international film festival folks from literally all over the world. So during a talk back, right, I'm on stage. There's folks, there was an Egyptian filmmaker, like, and these folks are like literally that came here to New York just for this, right? There was a Black Parisian woman,
wow,
right? It's the New York African Film Festival. So my film, you know, is screening folks literally from all over the world. I'm sharing the stage with them.
Wow.
So that's when I'm just like, just know your why. Know your why. Know the lanes that you're trying to travel in.
You just dropped the mic just now, because I feel like, and being a certified life coach, when I sit down with people that I'm giving advice to or just listening, you can never pinpoint someone's fault. Only God can do that, right? You just want to listen, give the best advice you can. But from my findings, I find most people get involved with things to please others.
For sure.
It's not ever like, because this is what I want to do and it makes me happy. It's, I got to get married because my parents said. I got to, because the teacher said. I got to do this because my mom said. It's never, you know what? I'm sewing and making blankets because it just makes me feel like the best.
It sets my soul on fire.
I watch Family Matters and make blankets because I feel like I've achieved something. How about that?
Yeah, no, listen, I be trying to tell folks that intrinsic motivation, it's going to trip you up every time, right? At some point, like, don't get me wrong, do people give us guidance, you know,
feedback,
guardrails, like, to try to, like, make sure that we are doing something? For sure, but only you know what really sets your heart on fire.
Absolutely.
And if you're not willing to lean into that, that's why I also tell people, like, when people are hitting a rough patch or whatever, and they say, like, oh, you know, because, you know, the hate is my motivation, or, you know, and I'm trying to tell people, I'm like, a hater can never be my motivator. Like, because the moment that I'm focused on, one, that somebody doesn't want me to win, the moment that, because I'm guided by love, the things that I do them because I love them. So if I'm letting someone that hates the things that I'm doing, if I'm looking to them of how I'm supposed to lean into it, like, I'm going to lose the plot every time.
Off-centered already.
Because, like, let's be honest, there's some things too that sometimes we should stop doing them. But if you so worried about looking like a failure to a hater, you're going to overstay in situations and places that you should leave.
You've already failed.
That you should start over. That you should wipe the slate clean. But if you're so worried about looking like a failure to certain people that never wanted to see you win, like, that's wild to me. Like, a hater can never be my motivator. Like, how am I going to let somebody motivate me who ain't constructing nothing? Haters never run out of hate. It costs them zero to do it. So they have an endless supply of them. You can never outwork. Like, there's not enough of work that you can do to overcome a hater. You just can't. Because then, you, like, on the flip side of that, it's like, even when you win, and they going to downplay your success. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So the biggest thing for me is, like, one, I'm just feed the love. Like, if folks, when people show me love, that's what I'm going to lean into. That's what I'm going to lean into. But mostly I'm going to have to lean into what my why is. And I think, to your point, like, so many people, you know, we're more interested in looking like a success than actually feeling good about our success. Like, you really do have to pick a side.
Absolutely.
You really do.
That was strong, Queen. And just so you know, I got them blankets coming out in about a week or two. You cover it. No, but Queen,
I'll be your first customer.
Queen, you know, I love you. Always did, always will. I look forward to so many more of your ventures, and thank you so much for joining us, you know, this evening on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you,
I look forward to the next one, absolutely. And as we always say, from me and mine to you and yours, are you doing all you can today? Peace.
Peace.